Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So I said good morning a couple of times this morning, so now it's back to me again. I hope that you haven't had enough of me yet before I get enough of myself. And Chris has asked me to do 2 presentations since I'm here, and I have said that don't put the 2 back to back because I'm pretty good at yelling at my husband for 3 hours straight, but now it's yelling at a crowd like this for 3 hours straight. So this morning I had talked about agile recruitment, rethink about the talent attraction. And this afternoon, I'm going to continue the dialogue and really move us forward into make it right from the get-go, which is to talk about orientation on onboarding myth, legends and myth. Exactly. I know that as adult learners, our attention span is only about 25 minutes interval each time. So at any time, if you feel that you need to go to the bio break, refresh yourself with anything other than punching your neighbors, please feel free to do so. And I will give you some time at the end to do a quick individual/group exercise and then ask questions if you may have. All right, so this is my clicker. Let me ask you this question. We're all professional career people. At some point in our life, we have changed jobs or applied for different jobs. Think about your past experiences when you start new positions. How long did it take you to figure out if you were going to stay with the employer or not? Oh, I see. Very promising. You're being taped. What about the rest of you? 1 week?
Yeah, a week.
A week. 1 month?
Yeah.
6 months? Give or take? The research has told us that about 90% of people decide whether they want to stay with a company or not in the first 6 months. And I sometimes always give the analogy, I really like this analogy that I created, actually, that recruitment, when the organizations put a job ad on the internet, it feels like putting a dating advertisement on a dating site. Screening the resume really feels like that you are screening the potential dating partners. And then the interview is like the speed dating process. And then also the probation period is like the cohabitation period. If you have to kick each other out, better do it before the kids come into the picture, right? So that's the analogy I often like to use. And it basically says that a long-term rewarding employment relationship really starts well when you treat them right at the beginning. So again, my habit of teaching at post-secondary, I really like to start the session with asking questions. So this time in the next 7 minutes, by yourself, in a group with the table mates already met. So really to discuss about how would you rate your organization's orientation and onboarding process. Second question, what has been your best experience to date, and what about the worst experience to date when it comes to orientation and onboarding? So 7 minutes, let's go. All right, time's up. So due to the time constraint, I have to call you back to me here, and then I may throw the thing back at you if you're speaking. So first, let's do a finger count. Again, don't show me the middle finger, but just by showing your hands on a scale between 1 and 10, how would you rate your current organization's onboarding experience? 10 is highest.
Depends on the job.
Oh, wow. 1 is the lowest, just so, okay, all right. Okay, wow. That's really good to know. What about some of the best experiences you've experienced? Can someone just give me a quick short story about the best experience? Oh, please.
Oh, look at her. She's like,
I used to live in Ontario, and I worked for a provincial park there. And there was a bunch of summer students who would start each summer.
Okay.
And so they would train us for 3 or 4 days straight. And so they would do all the basic stuff like WMIS and all the safety things. And then they would take us out in the park and show us different parts of the park. They would show us different parts of like the tools. Like I had someone show me every tool. So they would be like, this is a broom, this is a wrench. And then they would go up to the more challenging ones. So that was really encompassing, I found.
Great, thank you. What about worst experience? I figure I'll have more volunteers for worst experience.
I hired a social worker whose job was to do youth work, and within, I think that I missed the 3-month mark, so it wasn't a clear-cut termination. I had an RCMP member who came to my office saying that my employee was caught selling marijuana to my clientele.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Congratulations. That person is out the door. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Great. I figured that I'll see some tears and laughs when I heard your discussion. So that's expected, especially when talking about the bad experience. And you hear mine pretty soon too. And so this is based on my experience that working in human resources, I figured that there are some major contributing factors to satisfied and productive employees. All business want happy and productive employees because they keep our business running, going, keep our customers happy, and on top of that is to make our jobs a little easier to manage them as managers, right? Who wants to go home and thinking about, oh, I had that bad employee that I have a conversation, it's never going to work out when you go home. You don't want to think about that. 75% of people leave the workplace because of their direct supervisor. Think about your own experience. Why did you quit before on your own, right? Was it mostly because of the work or is it mostly because of the people? However, 89% of the boss, when they receive the resignations from the employees, they think, oh, they just got a better opportunity somewhere else. Such a difference in expectations and also the way to interpret the stats. The work itself, the research I've read is that after your compensation has reached a certain level, the challenge, the authority, autonomy, and the work components of itself actually bring in the engagement and satisfactions to the workers. However, when we usually dump the work at the new hire and say, here you go, here's your station, tools, resources, you go figure it out. We don't check on them anymore. We don't care about them anymore. And they feel like the retarded cousin on the block. And you often hear employees say, oh, it's just another day. Oh, it's just a job, right? It's not a career, it's just a job. So if organizations, leaders, and managers are now paying attention to that kind of mentality and now addressing these issues, eventually your happier employees are going to be affected, and the new hire is eventually going to be drifted away and becoming less and less productive. Compensation. We had heard the entire morning saying that the base pay is now the most important driving factor for employee satisfaction and productivity. However, when I have compensation there, I'm not going to touch the screen, I know that better. The reason I have compensation there is to encourage us as the company managers to look at the entire compensation package. Because think about yourself, when you switch jobs, when you apply for new jobs, when you have two offers or two companies to compare, yeah, we do look at the base pay, just want to make sure it's within the ballpark of our expectations and there is no 10 missing. It's a typo from the HR people. But on top of that, we are comparing what are the perks and benefits, are there performance pay involved, are there pension and benefits and this kind of childcare or parking or anything like that included as well. It's a fun environment to work in. So it's looking at the total package itself. The study I've read is that in Canada, when a professional employee has made over $75K per year, that's before tax, that the value of more money brings to that employee actually diminishes. I don't know why 75K, but apparently that's the research based on the Canadian average, which tells us that when the basic needs are met as a professional, you know, the food and shelter, the security, and paying a mortgage and the kids going to school, that kind of stuff, we are looking for more things towards the organization itself, as well as the work, the culture, the supervisor. And of course, there are the individual employees' personal factors play into the situation, personality, expectations. Their spouse had to relocate, so they have no choice but to move on in their career as well. There are many situations like that that are also involved. But as a business owner or manager, that's something out of our control. What we can manage are these 4 factors. So let me ask you this question. How long, when you think about your most recent experience as a new hire, how long did it take you to be fully onboarded? People say in 1 day, a week, a month?
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah, nobody onboarded me. I figured it out myself.
It took you that short, eh, Doug? Great. Anybody, what about, let's say 3 months? 6 months? People are just being conservative today with me. 6 months?
Some of us are self-employed, so we can't ask.
Yeah. Great. So according to the studies I've read, that for frontline customer service or just frontline simple positions, it takes about a month to 2 to break even. So when I say break even, it does not mean developed or integrated. That only meant that I'm being hired, I'm oriented, given the tools, resources, showed around, know who is the boss, who not to piss off with, and then onboard and know what time to work and what to do kind of thing. So that business starting generating money from me as the new employee instead of me going out harassing every other person, can you show me how to do the job? For a middle-level manager position, it takes about 6.2 months to break even. And for senior executive position, it takes between a year to 2 years. So the number is huge. That's a lot of money. And this morning I talked a lot about money. It feels like that I'm Mrs. Scrooge here, keeps talking about money. But it is true, it just takes that long for us to break even with a new hire. And break even is only up to the point of onboarded. This is a summary of a new hire goes through the phases of 5. Hired, oriented, onboarded. Integrated is about believing into the culture, values are aligned, I'm going to go above and beyond to contribute to your organization, and then believe I have a career path with your organization. So this is my perfect opportunity to tell you my horror onboarding experience. And then my students will say that I'm usually very good at telling stories, so I'll try to control my emotions. This was a few years back. Despite that, my previous boss had told me not to sign up for that organization. They are probably not the good one. I said, you know what? I'm just going to give it a shot, being the Gen Y employee here. So the organization hired me, and it was dumb on me that I didn't check the company. They interviewed me in the hotel lobby by Starbucks in Edmonton. So I remember as I was speaking about my experience so passionately, everybody getting coffee from Starbucks heard my life story. And then I didn't get a chance, and I didn't even ask to go into the company, had to have the tour. Maybe had I had that experience, I may have changed my opinion. I didn't know. So the first day, my boss, which she was located in the States, she had asked my HR assistant in Edmonton to greet me at the front desk at 8 a.m. And me thinking, I'm going to have an office, I'm going to start working hard on the day one. You know, as a new person on the block, you want to show your best behavior, right? So I carried my personal stuff, some files, I'm going to set up my office. So right the first morning, I was there at 7:45, hoping that my HR assistant will show up and pick me up and so I can get things ready really early. She didn't come until 8:15. And nobody knew that I was starting with the company. So I was sitting at a reception desk for half an hour when everybody passed by me thinking like, who is this alien, right? And then my assistant showed up at 8:15. She had McDonald's fries in her hands. When she saw me, she was running. She knew that she was late, so she put down the McDonald's fries, wiped her hand on the pants. Nice to meet you. And then she took me to my office, and the door hinge was falling, employee files all over the floor, and the desk on the computer was probably this thick. And the phone was there, but there was no phone cable hooked to the phone. That was my worst experience with orientation onboarding. And I did not last very long there. The company no longer exists today. But I've learned a lot about onboarding and orientation, because since that experience, I was thinking, if I was an HR professional, that's what I experienced. Imagine how would the rest of employees feel if that's what they experienced. Can we be a productive employer for employees to create a good environment? So since then, I've dived into my experience and really wanted to create a different onboarding experience for the staff, for the company. So really all it started is from the moment that we hire someone. From the moment you shake hands with the other person saying, welcome aboard, that orientation onboarding has already started. It does not start from day one. It actually started way before that. Because usually the moment we shake hands with a new hire to the moment they can officially, physically start with our company, takes at least about 2 weeks, right? To give notice, and if they don't have vacation plan in between, or if they don't want to slack a few days in between kind of thing. So usually this is what I would recommend, is definitely confirm your new hires start before day one. It could not be more embarrassing that you sent the announcement to the entire company saying that John Smith is going to start on January 15th, only to find out he wasn't going to show up on that morning. And now, of course, there are employees or candidates who sign off on the offer letters and change their mind at last minute, reject your offer, move somewhere else who offer $100 more base pay, right? So you definitely want to warm up that relationship with the employees, the potential employees, throughout the whole 2 weeks notice period, just in case things could happen. And then also, before the new hire starts, you want to get the files ready. So HR files, payroll files include tax forms, resumes in their application forms, reference checks, documents, offer letters. That's the thing that HR people and office manager live with, is that official documents. We need to have those documents, either it's paper file or electronic file. We need to maintain them on file in order to be legislative compliant. But at the same time, it's just a good practice for us to do. Documentation. If we didn't put in documentation in place, then the procedure has now started. We want to make sure we do a good job there. And then also want to make sure IT setup is there. You wouldn't want to experience what I had experienced. It took me a couple of days to get computer and phone figured out. It's just such a waste of time. Get the computer set up, get the printer connected, get the access card connected, get the key fobs, whatever, parking tickets, parking passes, whatever the case may be. And then also finance. If you have hired a manager, that person may have budgetary authority, or that person may be traveling for business, needs a company credit card. All of these things need to be taken into consideration in advance. And again, I am very bitchy about my experience, so office setup is also important. Since my experience, I had asked the HR assistant before each new hire started whether they have an office or a cubicle, wipe it out, clean it with a Kleenex, the wet antibacterial wipe to wipe it out the desk, put a couple pens and paper pads and water bottles and maybe company mugs, a few things on the table to get it ready. It's all about that first impression, right? It's like when you walk into a restaurant, if it's untidy, if it's dirty, you wouldn't want to eat there anymore. Same thing with new hires. When they start, they want to have a good first impression. I had a really good experience with one company. When I started, there was a bouquet of flowers on my desk, ready for me, and a company mug. And then the manager took me out for lunch. How nice was that? And then also send out new hire announcements. You wouldn't want a new hire to show up a little bit earlier just because that person was like me, so eager to start earlier, and then nobody knew that person is the new person on the block. Everybody's watching this person thinking that he or she was trespassing, right? So you want to, especially with safety-sensitive position, you want to make sure that your new hire is well known to the company. And also, this is a good example of things to do, is that if you want your new hire to meet a few people during the initial couple of days or weeks, get that schedule set. So the person the new hire is going to meet is ready, and the new hire also knows what to expect, who to meet. Assign a buddy. This is something that Google does too. Google is very proud of having an electronic new hire orientation checklist to remind everybody's role in the new hire's orientation, as well as assign a peer buddy so the new hire knows who to go to if I have questions or concerns. And then also send out the new hire policy. So this actually has become a common practice with companies, is when you give new hire the offer letters to check off and to sign off on, they also send the company handbooks, employee handbooks or policies attached to that new hire offer. So the new hire is mentally and physically ready before they start. They knew what are policies, what are boundaries. They read through it. It also saves you a few bucks, so the new hire doesn't have to do it on the first day, right? These are the tricky questions. Who is responsible in your organization doing all of these new hire plannings? And who really should be responsible for it? Managers, especially direct supervisors, should play a huge role in this. Yeah, if we're admin professionals, it's in our responsibility to make sure, the office set, maybe get payroll and HR people connected, these kind of things. But with setting up a buddy, getting a new hire announcement out, warming up the relationship with the new hire, these all should fall with the immediate supervisor. It's all about that relationship building. Then the second stage is really the get-go. The first day, employees start with your company. You do an office tour, do the quick introduction, shake hands, and introduce that new person to the people on the team, around the team. If they work in a safety-sensitive position, then the PPE, the personal protective equipment, uniforms need to be given. These are just the given. There's no brainer with this one. This is just straightforward. And then you want to get them involved with the crew very soon, so they don't feel they're left out just doing the paperwork or just hearing what company training is about. They get to settle mentally very quickly too. And then, of course, if there are a few policies you really want to emphasize on, such as drug and alcohol, respectful workplace, or gifts entertainment, or finance policies, although they have read your policy, signed off, agreed to abide by your policies, it's still a good idea to remind them of a few key policies when they first start. So actually, I'm going to skip this slide because I'm going to cover it on the next slide. Is that this is my checklist, and it's also in your booklet that Chris has printed out for you, is an orientation checklist. This is more the structured, formal orientation. It can happen between multiple people on multiple occasions and different times throughout the first week or so. So new hire orientation should cover things like the environment. What does our organization do? Yes, we do ask these questions during the interview. Why do you want to join us? What does our organization do? What do you know about us? And most of the people who give you the answers, they copy straight from your website or from Wikipedia, right? But this is your opportunity to warm up to them to say, this is who we really are. The kind of industry we are, the kind of geographical location boundaries we are in, and the competitions we run into, and also don't sugarcoat it. You as managers, you don't like surprises, new hires don't either. So talk to them about challenges. If you're running short on finance, on budgets, on numbers, tell them what are the challenges. And if you are in serious competition with another organization, tell your new hire what are the challenges. The departments, the team, the intact team that the new hire is going to work with, the key policies we talk about, support functions. If I have questions about my pay, who do I go to? If I have questions about printer, who should I talk to? If I have question about finance procedure, who is the support people in this organization? With smaller organization, I can understand it's probably a little easier. You are the owner or you're the office manager. Every question goes to you, right? But eventually you want to dump that knowledge, transfer somewhere else. That's a different story. But with larger organizations, the new hire may have to run to a few different people or departments to get your questions answered. Safety, dress code. Don't think, let me remind you of this, the dress code today's society is not a common sense anymore. I teach at post-secondary and I hire lots of young people. Dara and I just had that discussion during lunch that he doesn't believe there's a generational difference. In my opinion, that we just have different expectations when it comes to dress code. In my classes, I have to tell the students that we're doing a business presentation, I expect business formal clothes. First time I learned I wasn't specific enough. Because you still see the ladies come with flip-flops. And you still see the ladies with super mini skirts. Or gentlemen with, I don't even want to mention what it is. But anyway, so the second time when I had the same assignment, I had mentioned it very specifically, what is business formal dress code? I even showed a few pictures. And then I pointed out, gentlemen, you don't need to wear the black tie what Jackie Chan would wear in the movies. You don't have to do that. But business formal is, this is the example. So you really have to be specific. And again, many things is we say in HR is if you haven't communicated that message, don't expect your new hire don't assume they would know what you mean. Definitely do spend lots of time about the position itself. And this is probably where the managers, the media supervisor, or the department head should spend lots of time with the new hire. Do talk about the positions, expectations. Don't just assume that we're hiring you to be, let's say, a IT desktop support person, and that person is going to know exactly what to do and what your expectations are. What if your organization is different from other organizations? Do talk about the technical expectations of the position, but don't forget about the behavioral expectations, right? So for example, no water cooler talk is your expectation. Then make it very, very clear right at the beginning. And then also set your performance goals. So do spend time to discuss performance expectations and set goals. And do have your regular check-in points booked on your calendar as a manager, as well as the new hire. I had worked in organizations that even though manager says, I have an open door policy, I talk to you one-on-one on a monthly basis. Every time when I had a question, the manager wasn't there or the door was closed. I didn't know what she was doing. Or the calendar appointment for the one-on-one meetings constantly get moved and delayed. That's not respectful either. And then also, if there are training to be provided, either it's compliance training, safety training, or soft skills training, just put that in the calendar. Communicate that very early on and be very clear about it. And then also, it's important to mention about the not so obvious. As I mentioned, we don't like surprises, so do the new hires. The less opportunities for them to assume, to guess, the more success you're going to see from your new hires. Do talk about the culture. Do talk about what are the politics around here, what are the norms, how we do things, what are past practices, so that when your new hires ask questions or make suggestions, the other employees wouldn't think that he is being different. Because if you didn't communicate that, that person is just going to make the assumption. And don't forget, these are the things that we care as an organization and as manager. There are a few things, just a few, that the new hire also cares about. What is the pay schedule going to be like? Can I get your payroll calendar? And what about benefits? When can I sign my dependents under the benefits? What do you offer? What can I choose from? The flexibility. You know, when you hired me, you said you have a flexible schedule here. How flexible are you really? And what are the manager styles and communication methods? So if you're the direct manager, do talk about what keeps you up in the night. What worries you? What can a new hire do to make your job successful, worry less? And that's what you want to communicate with the new hire. Being transparent, respectful, of course, and allow no surprises. If you work in different office buildings or different locations and you prefer phone calls, then don't let the new hire assume. Do talk about it. Because if you hired a younger generation worker, maybe he prefers or she prefers to text you instead of call you or meet you in person. So if that's your communication style preference, do talk about it. And then especially for new hires, it's important to know who do I go to if I have questions or technical questions, behavioral expectation questions, or just logistic questions. The cycle number 3, under the first 3 months, so employees will get more training. It's a good idea to assign a buddy to take them around, get them involved in different projects, and have them be part of the social happy hour network or the lunch hour group, so they don't feel they're left out. For the first 3 months, I know there are some introverts that I've hired. They found it extremely difficult to get into the Intact team because they're not that outgoing social butterfly to say hi to everybody and to be acquainted for all the happy hours. I happen to be like that, so it's a little easier for me to start, but there are lots of introverts who are not comfortable doing that. So what can you do as a manager, as an organization, to create that kind of atmosphere? To also encourage your older coworkers, senior workers to partner up with your new hire so they don't feel left out. If you have to do classroom trainings, so for example, Zappos, a really famous, successful online shoe store, e-commerce, part of Amazon, they give their new hires 5 weeks paid training sitting in the training environment. All the new hires go through that training. At the end of the training period, they offer $2,000 cash for new hires to leave the company. I know that for us, nonprofits, we don't have that pocket to give $2,000 to everybody, maybe $2. But historically, only 1% of these new hires really took that money and moved away because they didn't feel this was the right environment for them. The rest of them, the 99%, didn't take the money, they stayed and helped the company to grow. On the outside, as a new hire, we have to put on a bubbly face, the happy, we're engaged, everything is going well. But internally, this is how we really, really feel. Always put yourself into the shoes of the new hire. Just think about your own experience. How did I feel when I started this job? What can I do to remove barriers, make our new hires feel a little bit more comfortable? Have the regular conversations, whether it's in the washroom hallway, whether it's taking new hire for coffee or in the office. And then a few more tips is that treat the new hire like how you want to be treated. Definitely communicate and observe. Do have regular check-ins, and stay interview is a good idea to do too. By show of hands, how many of your organizations conduct stay interviews? Okay, and that's not uncommon. So interviews are not just done at the time you hire someone or at the time someone is leaving, say I do an exit interview. Stay interview is done at different interviews. You want to check in on the new hires. Are things going all right? Is there anything we can do to help you? What are roadblocks? What are challenges? Did I not explain the job really well that you're not performing to the standards? Or what can we do differently? So it's conversation at the end of the day. And then this is what the advice I always give to the managers is that in Alberta, our probation is 90 days. If you have to let the new hire go, make sure you don't miss the mark, like the example you gave, right? So if you have to let the new hire go, then do it early, quick and early. Like the analogy I give, kick the person out before the kids come into the picture, right? So as a manager, as a business owner, I think it's not a matter of if you're going to terminate someone, it's only a matter of when. It will just happen. Someone just does not work out. Maybe you made the wrong hiring decision, or does something have changed in employee's life cycle that they have to move on in their life. That's totally fine. At this moment, your new hire is being oriented. And it seems like this only happened to me today. And as you can see, there is a gender and demographics difference between me and the rest of the speakers. So the technology is just being a little picky on me today. But anyway, so after 3 months, your new hire feels like, now I can take a breath. I finally passed probation, celebration. And I can probably start doing a little bit heavy lifting or jobs on my own without asking too many questions. And I can start contributing a little bit more to the team and feel like I'm getting my confidence back a little bit. And then that's only to the point of onboarded. So that's the break-even point I was talking about. After 6 months, and even though I've mentioned that 90% of people decide if they want to stay or not within 6 months, only 15% companies continue diligently their onboarding process after the 6-month mark. How many of your companies do continue the onboarding process after 6 months? Great. Yeah, it's not uncommon because most of us are not conscious about that experience. In order for us to get people integrated, so after 6 months, your new hire starting asking less questions. They can do things more independently. They can do the multitask. They can actually start performing break even. And then they feel like they're being painted. If they really align their values and personalities and agenda with your organization's agendas and values, then they start being part of the team, being painted. And that's what you want, is that employees' values are aligned with yours. So they voluntarily go above and beyond to serve the organization. However, at the 12-month mark is the year-end performance review time, probably. And many organizations don't even do the performance review. And Darryl is going to talk about performance review a little bit more detail than I do. Is that performance review should really not come as a surprise. And it really should not be a one-year thing. It should not be a document that we take it out at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, we sign off on it and never look at it again. It really should not be like that. Performance review should be an ongoing, diligent conversations with documentation between you, the manager, and the employee on a regular basis. So the difference is at the year end, I want to check in on my new hire again. Despite I had the regular conversations and check-ins, stay interviews, until this moment, let's take a look at your yearly objectives. How are you performing against these targets and objectives? What can we do differently next year? And to this point, hopefully, if your employee is still staying with you, is that that person is being integrated. I've shown this already that, in my personal opinion, there are 4 contributing factors to employee happiness. But what's missing, so the one factor that I had not talked about that I think is important and connects all 4 pieces together is the employee's professional development. And that's the last phase of the onboarding for a new hire, is that the developed phase. It's not so intuitive because most of us only worries about getting a job done, getting a task done, getting organizations, clients, customers served. Having professional development, that discussion between the supervisor and employees, manager knows what employees' career goals are, that's great. And then the organization culture also supports that. Then employees feel they're being constantly challenged and they're growing their job and they have a job to stay within your organization. And hopefully along with that, their compensation goes higher a little bit as well. And that in my business, I also do a lot of career planning and consulting with individuals. Is what I've learned is that people are constantly looking for that challenge in their career in order to stay with the company and grow themselves. So between managers and employees, managers have conversation with employees saying, hey, John Smith, you've been here for 12 months and so, doing a good job. I really want to know what's your career plan? What's your career goal? How can we help you to reach there? And then, of course, the employee has to have the desire, the willingness, and ability to grow his or her career. only if the manager is doing the mono talk saying that I know you want to grow your career, let me help you, but the employee is like, I don't really care, then it's not a good match. Then the employee is probably just happy doing what he's already doing. But in order for this to work is that the manager and employee have to work together and there is a mutual understanding. At the same time as a manager, the manager needs to also point out, you know, I can support you. These are the internal resources. Maybe it's training internally. Maybe it's giving you additional projects to do. Maybe it's accounting you to a different department for trying different things. So whatever that works for employees organically to grow the career. But sometimes organizations, when their scale is relatively small, there aren't that many opportunities for them to grow their career, either by position or project to enlarge the experience. So in that situation, as much as you want to hold on to your employees for the benefits of the employee and your organization, you may have to let that person quit. And that's why what we're saying that in career planning, sometimes the way up may be the way out. Hopefully we won't get to that conversation today, but my point is that this is the entire new employee orientation cycle. And it goes between hired, onboarded, orientated, integrated, and developed. So it's a long process. It takes lots of diligent planning, and it's not very easy. So I've talked enough, and so in the next 15 minutes, I would like you to open your booklets. And so I had nicely created some beautiful charts for you. And this is based on everything I've talked about so far, and I have to summarize them by different phases. I would like you to either work by yourself, or if you have company employees, coworkers here, you can work together as a group, and just see this checklist, how you can adjust that to suit your organization's situation. All right, can I get your attention, please? I'm so glad to hear some really interesting discussions among some of you, even though you may not work for the same organizations, but there are some cross issues that you share with each other. What will be some of the things that you saw the checklist and you think, oh, this is something I'm going to do or I should do? What are some of the examples? What are some of the examples of things when you went through the checklist thinking, this is something I should be doing?
The buddy.
Signing a buddy, yeah.
I like that. I like the idea of sending out the orientation package electronically in advance.
In advance, yeah.
That is going to happen like tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Put your orientation package online first, yeah, and electronic first. Yeah, what else?
The narrowing down of the specific policies that pertain to that specific position.
Uh-huh.
Because like our policies are like that thick, you obviously can't
Yeah,
hand the whole binder over to them and expect them to know it. and sign
exactly.
off.
Yeah,
Just highlight the important ones to them.
yeah, exactly. That's great. Anything else? Well, due to time constraint, because I'm supposed to be out 5 minutes earlier and I'm always punctual. But anyway, so just want to re-emphasize on a few things that I talked about this morning and what I just covered this afternoon as well, is that do spend time. It's really worth your while, the time and effort and amount of energy you put into properly onboard and train your new hire. Because it's initial building that relationship between yourself, the company, and the new hire that set the stage for new hire's experience. Because we all know recruitment can be extremely costly, especially re-recruitment, which means that the employee didn't work out, you have to fire or that person resign, and then you start all over again the recruitment process. What about the morale impact? What about the loss of productivity, right? So according to the Society of Human Resources Management in the United States, the 2017 survey said the average cost per hire for company is over $4,000. That's the average. It does not talk about the senior management positions. And it takes on average 42 days to fill a position. And also think about the time, effort, loss of productivity, the cost, the morale impact, and also your energy involved with the whole process. And I hope that there are some good thoughts, good discussions this afternoon for you to take away home with and then rethink about your orientation process, the 5 different phases, and how long it's going to take to really fully, truly onboard a new hire to make sure that new hire is successful with your organization. Thank you.